Hello. How long does it take to turn a family's dream into a nightmare? A year, a month, or just a day? There's a small town named Westfield in New Jersey in the northeastern United States known for its growth and prosperity. This is a desirable city, famous for its tranquility and the sense of relaxation it offers. Being only about 40 kilometers from Manhattan, it attracts many middle-class and wealthy families to settle here. In June 2014, the Derek Broaddus family bought a mansion at 657 Boulevard Westfield for $1.35 million. The husband is named Derek Broaddus, and the wife is Maria Broaddus. This 6-bedroom mansion had been the family's dream for many years, especially for his wife, as it was near her childhood home. This place not only provided their children with a better environment to grow up in, but also could hold beautiful, happy memories of their childhood. The couple was eagerly completing the procedures to take possession of the house, and the decoration and renovation work soon began. Their 3 children were also very excited, even discussing which fireplace Santa Claus would use. The whole family enjoyed the happiness of moving into their new home. 3 days after the house was handed over, around 10 p.m., Derek finished checking the day's decorations and left the new house alone. Before leaving, he saw a strange letter in the mailbox with a small handwritten note on the hand-drawn envelope. To the new owner of the house. The wording of the letter was quite polite, but its content sent chills down the reader's spine. Someone was watching them and knew everything happening in the new house. The most important thing was that this person was keeping an eye on their children. Derek, terrified, rushed into the house, turned off all the lights, and called the police in the middle of the night. The local police quickly arrived at the scene, and after reading the letter, they were also very surprised. This area had always been quite safe and rarely encountered such a situation. The police asked Derek if he had any enemies and suggested he remove some of the repair and decoration tools from the backyard to avoid their misuse. With no further information, the police then left the house. That night, Derek was extremely confused and recounted everything to his wife, Maria. The couple decided to use email to ask the previous homeowners, John and Andrea Woods, if they knew anyone called the Watcher, as the letter had mentioned this. They asked the Woods if they had found the blood of children, and it seemed they had complied very obediently. Early the next morning, the couple received a reply via email. The Woods stated that they had indeed received a similar letter a few days before moving out. The letter writer had said that the Woods family had been watching the house for many years and thanked them for taking good care of it. The Woods had lived there for 2 to 3 years and had never witnessed anything like this, so they didn't think much of it and threw the letter in the trash. That afternoon, the Woods family went with Maria to the police station to assist with the investigation. The letter had no fingerprints. The font was printed on generic paper, an envelope that could be found anywhere. No clues were found outside, but the postmark indicated the letter had been processed at a distribution center 30 kilometers away. The letter was sent on June 4th, at a time when the information about the house sale had not been publicly announced. The renovation company had only been there for 1 day, so whoever knew such details so quickly must be nearby. Before leaving, the officer in charge of the case privately advised Maria not to reveal the content of the letter to anyone, as they could all be suspects. The police investigation would be conducted discreetly. In the following period, the couple continued renovating the house as planned while maintaining high vigilance, especially when bringing their children to the new home. They felt like they were walking on thin ice. In one instance, a neighbor from the area visited their house and cheerfully mentioned how nice it was to have new blood join them. New blood meant new members, a very normal term, but in an instant it made the couple feel like they were plunging into an icy lake. They forced a smile and did not show their fear. It was a terrible feeling knowing that anyone around them could be a lurking threat to their family. The Broaddus couple didn't know whom to talk to about this and couldn't share their fear with anyone. Anxiety began to take over, and they realized that behind the neighbors' smiles were haunting, watchful figures. 2 weeks passed as they lived in day and night fear, constantly tormented by scary thoughts about the looming danger. While they anxiously awaited an answer from the police, another letter suddenly appeared in their mailbox. This time, the letter did not start with "Dear Neighbors," but directly addressed their family, Broaddus. Despite a small spelling error, it was clear that the letter writer knew their name. The content of the second letter made them even more uneasy. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Broaddus, welcome once again to your new home at 657 Boulevard. I have been observing the workers working very hard and noticed that you have been moving your belongings into the house carefully. The trash can you chose is beautiful. This house has cried for all the pain it has gone through. You have changed it, making it no longer as magnificent as before. Have you discovered what lies within its walls? One day you will. I am pleased to know your names and the names of your children. The house at 657 Boulevard has eagerly awaited your arrival for many years. It has been a long time since the last children played in its hallways. Have you discovered all the secrets of the house? Do the children dare to play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone? I would be very scared if I were in that situation. The basement is far away from the rest of the house. If you are upstairs, you will never hear their screams from the basement. Do the children dare to sleep in the attic, or will they all have to sleep together on the second floor? Who in the family will have the bedroom facing 657 Boulevard? I will know as soon as you move in. All the windows and doors facing 657 Boulevard will allow me to watch you as you move through the house. Who am I? I am the watcher of 657 Boulevard. This is my job, my life, my obsession, and now the Broaddus family is part of it. Greed has brought the past 3 families to 657, and now it has brought you to me. The words in the letter made the Broaddus couple feel extremely confused and terrified. Who was the sender of these letters? How did they know so much about their family? These questions haunted them every day and every hour without respite. The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard, as the house was full of life with the laughter of children. Now the house has become old. Have a happy move-in day. You know I will be watching. The second letter was much scarier than the first because the writer not only knew their name, but also knew various details about their time at the house. Even the names and nicknames of their 3 children were mentioned by the watcher. The perpetrator must have been very close enough to hear conversations between the couple and their children. Derek and Maria immediately halted their plans to move in and stopped letting their children play at the new house. They also moved many of their belongings back to their old home. A few days later, the couple stayed home and listed all possible suspects. First, they thought about the 2 competitors when they bought the house. They felt that perhaps the competitors were using tricks to drive them away and buy the house. However, when they checked with the Woods family, they found out that one of the competitors had suddenly fallen seriously ill and voluntarily withdrawn, while the other was considering and looking into other houses. Basically, both were ruled out as suspects. Derek and Maria then focused on the letters, reviewing them multiple times. One detail that caught their attention was that the watcher mentioned seeing a child drawing on the porch. However, the position of the porch was very secluded and could only be seen from inside the house or from a balcony near the backyard. The balcony was covered with lush branches, making it difficult to see straight from the outside. The couple thought about this for a long time, and suddenly they remembered a conversation from a week ago. They had casually chatted with a neighbor named John who lived 2 houses away. John had told them about the house between their 2 families. That house was where the Langford family lived, people who had been there since the 1960s. Mr. Langford had passed away 12 years ago, leaving behind his wife Peggy Langford and several children. On average, they were all in their 60 years old. The whole family lived together, with the youngest son being Michael Langford. Michael's behavior was somewhat odd. He often went in and out of other people's yards. His father's death and his unusual behavior fit the profile of the watcher. Most importantly, the Langford house was in a position where they could easily see their porch, and they were convinced Michael was the one watching. The couple was eager to contact the detective in charge of the case and express their suspicions about Michael. However, the police response was very indifferent, as they had already investigated Michael before. Immediately after the first letter was sent, they had a secret interview with him, and Michael denied the contents of the letter during the conversation. Due to a lack of evidence, they did not pursue further, and the police stated that they would continue to investigate secretly to avoid alerting the suspect. However, not long after they stopped bringing the children to the new house, a third letter appeared in their mailbox. The third letter read, 657 Boulevard is rebelling against me. I don't understand why you have invoked a curse upon it. It used to be my friend, but now it has become my enemy. I will patiently wait for this to pass, and for you to bring the young blood back to me. 657 Boulevard needs young blood. It needs young blood. Let the young blood play again like it once did. Let the young blood sleep in 657 Boulevard. It needs you. The content of the third letter was brief because the media only revealed a small portion, but it was certain that the watcher was urging them to move in as soon as possible. In just a few weeks, the family had received 3 threatening letters, but the police could not do anything. The Derrick family was very disappointed and decided that if the police couldn't solve the problem, they would investigate it themselves. Derrick planned a complete surveillance system for the new house and marked some suspicious neighbors. They also hired private detectives to investigate the surrounding area but found no useful leads. The couple used their connections to contact former FBI agent Robert Lenihan, who then asked them to recount the entire incident. Lenihan examined the letters and found some details they hadn't noticed before. The letter writer mentioned the weather conditions on the days alongside the letter headings and used some old-fashioned abbreviations, suggesting the writer might be an elderly person. Secondly, the letters contained many spelling errors and even incorrect dates indicating possible mental issues with the writer. The final point was the nostalgic and resentful tone toward the nouveau riche. Although the letters contained no offensive language or provocative terms, Lenihan concluded that the Langford family and others who had lived there, including their caretakers and servants, were potential suspects. After compiling the clues they had, and with the help of experts, the couple decided to focus once more on Michael Langford, the most suspected individual. Derrick and his wife sent a letter to the Langford family pretending to inform them that 657 Boulevard would be demolished soon to see how they would react. However, after sending the letter, they received no response. Shortly after, the police arranged a second meeting with Michael. Despite having some mental issues, he had lived peacefully with the neighbors for a long time, so the suspicion around him gradually diminished. Derrick felt powerless and hired a professional lawyer to gather more information, images, and letters from the apartment balcony. One night, they formally confronted the Langford family, hoping they would admit to their misdeeds. This confrontation only incited the anger of the Langford family, who insisted that Michael would never do such a thing. That night, both sides were at a complete standstill, and in the end, the incident ended, without resolution, leaving the case at an impasse. The Derrick couple began considering other solutions. They chose famous shepherd dogs, hired disguised veterans to patrol around the house, and hired architects to inspect all the walls of the new house. However, apart from finding some insulation issues with the walls, nothing unusual was discovered. In December 2014, they still could not find any trace of the watcher. The police told the Derrick family that there might be no hope of finding the person, and the dream mansion had ultimately turned into a nightmare for their entire family. Derrick began suffering from insomnia and had to take sleeping pills every night to be able to sleep. His wife Maria also developed severe anxiety and frequently had nightmares. By the end of 2014, the couple was mentally tormented and nearly broke down. They finally decided to sell the dream house they had never lived in for a single day. A few days later, 657 Boulevard was listed for sale by a real estate agent. The prominent house remained vacant after being renovated and never inhabited. Rumors quickly spread throughout the Westfield area. Derrick reduced the price multiple times, but the house still did not sell. Although some people were willing to buy it, the deals fell through immediately after the buyers heard about the strange letters. Derrick and Maria filed a lawsuit against the Woods family, the previous owners of the house. They claimed that the Woods family knew about the existence of the letters but did not mention it when selling the house and demanded compensation. At this moment, something unexpected happened. The lawsuit was reported by a local media outlet which gained access to the contents of all the letters. Everything was made public, completely changing the course of events. The next morning, 657 Boulevard was swarmed with reporters' vehicles. The Derrick family received over 300 interview requests from the media. The Watcher incident became complicated and caused a stir in the Westfield community. Residents on the boulevard began to realize that their neighborhood seemed unsafe, causing public outrage. Under immense pressure, the police were forced to reopen the investigation. The Westfield Police Department assigned a private detective named Baden to take over the case. Baden reviewed the entire case and discovered that the previous investigation was too hasty. The only neighbors interviewed were the Langford family, indicating that the investigation was not thorough. He also reviewed all the records and found some overlooked clues. DNA samples extracted from the Watcher's letter were left by a woman. Through the process of filtering information about those involved in the case, Barron noticed Michael Langford's sister, Abby Langford. She also had a motive for the crime because Abby worked for a real estate company and might have acted out of revenge for not securing the contract for 657 Boulevard. The police quickly compared Abby's DNA but found no match. Barron spent a lot of time investigating and also set his sights on another target, a young man living on the boulevard known online as the Gamer. This man had once driven and stopped outside 657 Boulevard. Barron invited him for an interview twice, but he did not show up. Although he was a suspect, there was no way to conduct a mandatory investigation due to a lack of evidence. As time passed, media interest in the case gradually faded due to no new leads. Detective Barron was also reassigned and the case was left unresolved. For over a year, the Watcher did not reappear. The nearby neighbors expressed deep sympathy for the Derrick family and often offered various pieces of advice. However, after the Watcher disappeared, differing opinions began to emerge and a picture of human nature gradually unfolded in public perception. Some residents began to believe that the incident was not as serious as they had imagined. The way the Derrick family handled the issue was seen as overly cowardly, negatively impacting the entire neighborhood over a minor incident. Some neighbors started to gossip that the boulevard had been a safe place to live for decades. Why did the Watcher appear right after the Derrick family moved in? Increasingly, there were voices of doubt, and some people began to openly say that Derrick, as a senior vice president of an insurance company, might have orchestrated the entire Watcher incident as a means of insurance fraud, or that it was a scheme by the previous homeowner for extortion. Regardless of the truth, the house on 657 Boulevard became increasingly difficult to sell. In January 2017, in an attempt to sell the house, the couple consulted a real estate lawyer to plan for demolishing the house and rebuilding it. The lawyer suggested dividing the property into 2 buildings for sale. Everything was ready, but it still needed approval from the local planning board. The board quickly discussed the Derrick family's issue and organized a neighborhood vote. The result was that the neighbors did not want the streetscape to change from its original appearance. Not long after the vote, the 4th letter appeared. It stated that strong and cold winds could be reserved for the evil Derrick and his hateful wife, Maria. It questioned if he wondered who the Watcher was suggesting he might have already spoken to them, one of the neighbors who claimed not to know who the Watcher could be. "I have been watching you from the dark. Telescopes and binoculars are great inventions. The house stood after your attempts to destroy it, held strong by the supporters in the neighborhood. My people on the boulevard have fulfilled my orders. They saved the soul of 657 Boulevard. It could be a car accident. It could be a fire. It could be a minor illness. You will be avenged, and the Watcher has won." 3 years after receiving the 4th letter, the family did not receive any more letters. On July 2, 2019, the Derrick family finally sold 657 Boulevard for nearly $960,000, suffering a loss of nearly $400,000 despite never having lived there. In 2018, Netflix purchased the rights to adapt the story of the Watcher, outbidding competitors like Paramount Pictures, Universal Pictures, and Amazon with a 7-figure deal. The Watcher case remains unsolved and no one knows who the stalker was. This is a story about the disappearance of a young couple in Busan, South Korea, in 2016. Due to the strange nature of the case, many clues were provided, but the police could not solve the case. Therefore, this case has become a troubling issue in South Korea. Over the years, major media outlets have continuously reported on it, extensively making the case a familiar name that everyone knows when mentioned. So what happened that year, and how did the events unfold that garnered so much public interest? Let's delve deeper into this case. On May 31st, 2016, a man claiming to be the father of Choi Seong-hee, a 33-year-old famous stage actress, went to the local police station to report that his son and daughter-in-law had been missing for 3 days and he could not contact them. Choi's husband, Jeon Min-gun, 34 years old, owned a shop in Busan. When Choi's father went to the store to look for his son, he was not there, and the employees said they had not seen Jeon since the 28th. He grew more anxious as he had tried to contact them for the past 3 days but received no response. When the police came to check the young couple's apartment, they found a dog running out of the house. John's father said this was the couple's beloved pet, and if they were away for a long time, they would definitely take the dog with them. After entering the room, the police noticed that it was very clean and tidy, with no signs of any struggle or break-in. The house looked completely normal with leftover food on the table, unwashed dishes, and some of the couple's personal belongings still in their places untouched. With the consent of Officer John, the police searched the room and discovered that 4 items were missing from the house, such as the clothes Choi usually wore, a laptop, a wallet, and both of their passports. It seems they had left hastily and only taken some simple clothes, their wallets and passports to go abroad. The police checked the immigration records and found that the 2 had not left the area. They then reviewed the surveillance camera footage in the apartment building's elevator and saw images of the 2 of them in the elevator on the night of May 27th into the early morning of the next day. According to the camera footage from May 27th, after participating in rehearsals for a new play at the theater troupe, Choi had stopped by a supermarket to buy some household items and food before returning to the apartment. At 11:31 p.m., she appeared normal, carrying the items she had just purchased. Around 3:45 a.m., John also appeared in the elevator with a normal expression, explaining that he had been out drinking with friends late that night. However, the police could only find surveillance footage of them entering the apartment building but not leaving it. Since their apartment was on a high floor, they would have had to take the elevator, but the elevator camera did not have any information about them leaving the building. Then on May 28th at 3:56 p.m., Choi texted the theater troupe saying they would not be able to perform due to some unexpected matters. By checking the call history, the police discovered that the couple had called a friend at 2:30 p.m. that same day, saying they would not be able to go to the bar as originally planned because they had to take care of some personal matters. These clues made the case even more mysterious as they indicated the couple had different activities and schedules than usual before their disappearance. Although the building has a total of 22 surveillance cameras and all of them are functioning normally, the police still could not find any images of the couple leaving the apartment. They went into the apartment but did not come out, and there were also no traces of them in the house, making the case a mystery, like a mysterious room. The Busan police had to add more personnel to conduct a thorough survey of the locations of the surveillance cameras in the apartment. At this point, they discovered that these 22 cameras actually had blind spots, and the couple had carefully planned in advance to leave the building without being detected. They walked down from the 15th floor to the ground, pressing against the wall to move, then entered the dead angles of the cameras. The police continued to investigate the surveillance cameras in the parking lot, and found that the couple's car was still in its original position and the parking lot cameras did not record any images of them appearing. This made the police even more puzzled because if they did not drive the car, how did they leave the area? In order to find clues, the police decided to expand the investigation area to include the cameras at the bus station and the train station, but still could not find any trace of the couple. This made the case even more mysterious. However, the police found some new clues by checking the SMS messages and call history of the couple. They found that before their disappearance, the couple had activities and schedules that were different from their usual ones. On May 29th, Jean sent money for the restaurant's operations to a friend and called to say that there was a serious incident happening in the house, so he could not come to the store for a few days. The friend asked what had happened, but Jean just said that if it was resolved smoothly, he would come back, then quickly hung up. At 6:20 a.m. on May 30th, Choi sent a message to a close colleague in the theater troupe saying that her health was not good and she could not participate in the performance. She said she was currently hospitalized, apologized for the inconvenience, and said that it was not convenient to call or text while in the hospital. When the colleague received the message, they realized that Choi's depression had relapsed. Choi had previously attempted suicide, but was unsuccessful, so they did not suspect anything and only inquired about her current condition. On May 31st, John called the theater troupe to say that his wife was hospitalized due to poor health and poor mental state, and that she would not be able to return to the theater troupe for a short period of time. From the content of the messages and phone calls, it can be seen that Choi's depression had suddenly relapsed, and John had quickly taken her to the hospital. However, their choice to conceal their whereabouts and avoid the camera is truly unusual. Choi's contact with the outside world is mainly through text messages, and no one has ever heard her voice. Therefore, it can be concluded that the husband was still alive on May 31st, and he sent messages to everyone, but no one has heard Choi's voice from beginning to end. Therefore, it can only be concluded that those messages were sent from Choi's mobile phone, but whether the messages were actually sent by her is unknown. While the police were investigating, John's father suddenly informed the police that he had been able to contact his son. On June 2nd, he received a safety message from his son. However, he refused to provide more details about the content of the message and asked the police to stop the investigation because he did not want to affect his family's life. After Choi went missing, her blood family has been continuously inquiring about news of their daughter everywhere and has also contacted the police, but to no avail. Meanwhile, her husband's family said they had no news of her causing a major conflict between the two families. Choi's family has been constantly begging the police to help find their daughter, but her husband's family has demanded that the police stop the investigation, which has further aroused the suspicion of the police. The police have checked all the major hospitals in Busan but could not find any medical records or hospital admissions for John and his wife. When checking the location of their mobile phones, the police found that on May 31st, when John made a phone call, the GPS signal indicated that he was near his family's apartment complex. On June 2nd, after John sent his last message to his father, the location signal of his phone was disconnected, and the last location before the signal was lost happened to be near his father's house. Around 9:54 p.m. on the same day, Choi's phone signal also disappeared, but the location was not Busan, but in the Gangdong district of Seoul. Busan and Seoul are hundreds of kilometers apart. The cars of the two people have not moved and are still in the parking lot, which makes people wonder if they went there together or if only Choi went. While the police investigation was at an impasse, a new clue emerged, making the case even more complex. The police discovered that John had a high school sweetheart named Yoon Mi-jin, and they had dated for many years, but their families strongly opposed the relationship, and they had to break up. Afterward, Yoon quickly married someone else, but they also divorced quickly after the husband discovered his wife was having an affair with John. 2 years after the divorce, Yoon met her current husband, and they got married and settled in Norway, while John also met his wife Choi. However, John could not separate himself from his feelings for Yoon, and he even bought a separate phone to stay in touch with her. Before John and Choi got married in 2015, Yoon's daughter from her second marriage passed away due to illness in Norway, an event that caused Yoon great grief and stress. She was dealt a psychological blow and believed that her life was ruined by John and that her daughter's death was his fault. Yoon demanded that John provide her with a sum of money as compensation, and she wanted to use the money to cryogenically preserve her daughter's body, hoping that in the future, with advancements in medicine, they could revive her daughter. Even a month before John and Choi's marriage, Yoon continuously called and harassed Choi, threatening that if she dared to marry John, she would not let them go. After the investigation, the police discovered that on May 5th, Yoon had returned to Korea, ostensibly to arrange her daughter's funeral. However, there were several unusual points, such as the fact that she did not stay at home or in a hotel to rest, but instead chose places like saunas and motels that did not require identification, and she only used cash, not her card. Furthermore, Yoon left Korea 10 days earlier than initially planned, and the timing of her return to Korea coincided with Choi's pregnancy. The unusual actions and movements and criminal behavior, however, since Yoon has already left South Korea, the police can only request a red notice from Interpol to track and investigate further. With the support of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the extradition process for Yoon has begun. Initial information indicates that Yoon is currently a wanted fugitive and the extradition process is underway. However, she has hired a lawyer to fight against this extradition case, which further complicates the efforts to locate the couple. The South Korean police are also facing difficulties in gathering sufficient evidence to ensure a smooth extradition process. Meanwhile, John's father has requested the police to stop the investigation, and the major media outlets in South Korea have not been allowed to reveal images of his son. However, Choi's immediate family hopes to find their daughter as soon as possible, and they believe that releasing the photos is the only way they can have a chance to locate her. This is why in all the media images released, only the wife's face can be seen while the husband's face has been obscured. In September 2016, about 4 months after the couple went missing, a hospital nurse reported to the police that someone had tried to obtain a prescription for antidepressants. Based on this information, the police later extracted security camera footage and discovered that the person was John's father. Although John's father is clearly a suspect, the police were unable to charge him due to lack of conclusive evidence. The 30 million won that the couple had deposited in the bank before their disappearance remains untouched, and there has been no news about them. On March 11, 2019, the South Korean police announced that they would continue investigating the case and requested the media's involvement. They publicly released the real names and ages of both victims. To this day, the South Korean police have not given up on the investigation and continue to call for public participation, with the hope of finding the couple no matter the outcome as long as they return safely. How do you feel about this story? Leave a comment below so we can discuss it together, and if this story has left an impression on you, please like and subscribe to support me. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.